Welcome to this web lecture about mental models. A mental model is a description of how we understand the way a system works, and we understand it by learning and using it. So we're not studying a technical manual that describes how something really works, but we experience it, and through our experience, we get an idea as to how something actually works. So our mental model helps us in deciding how to use the system. At each point, we need to know what to do next. This is sufficient for most circumstances, expected or even unexpected. By knowing how many systems work, we infer how probably a system we haven't seen before may also work. Or if a system that we are used to does something unexpected, we use our understanding of that system to figure out what to do. This can, of course, backfire tremendously. If we experience that our car stops, we may open the hood, and sure enough, we're looking at the engine for the first time. We've never seen the engine when it worked. We're now seeing the engine when it doesn't work. Our understanding of how to drive a car may not really help us a lot in figuring out what is wrong. So our mental model is an internal construction of some aspects of the external world, and it's a representation and a construction that helps us to predict what will happen when we press a control. These predictions hopefully are right, but it involves mostly conscious, but sometimes also unconscious processes, unconscious mostly by making analogies between situations that may actually make no sense, right? But we make them anyway. Our mental models can be deep or shallow. Deep meaning that we think we understand many details about how exactly a device works. We can also not try to understand, just know how we can operate it. We don't need to know the technical details of a car to know that, well, the accelerator is used to speed up, right? And the brake pedal is used to slow down. We don't need to know what's behind these pedals. Some people think they know what's behind it. That doesn't necessarily help them in driving the car. So how to drive the car and how it works is a distinction between deep and shallow, but the deeper our mental model is, right, the more likely that our ideas are actually wrong. We use mental models a lot in everyday reasoning. Here is in the first example. I will give you two examples to think about. First example is you arrive home and it is cold. Now, in the Western world, we all have a thermostat at home. With the thermostat, we can indicate the desired temperature. And then the heating system will make sure that the temperature reaches that desired setting. Now, we want it to be 20 degrees. It may currently be 15. Right? What do? We can set the thermostat to 20, or we can set the thermostat to maybe 25. What would you do? There are quite a few people who would set the thermostat to 25, hoping that the house will actually heat up faster when you set the thermostat to 25 versus 20. A similar example is you arrive home, you're hungry, and you still have a piece of pizza, cold pizza. You want to heat it up, not in a microwave, because then the pizza becomes soggy. So you want to heat it up in a normal oven. You have an electric oven, and it needs to be heated up. Right? What do? If you want it to reach 375 degrees Fahrenheit, say around 200 Celsius, what do? Do you actually set the temperature control to 375? Or do you set it maybe to 450 or to maximum to heat up the oven more quickly? A lot of people turn up the oven to maximum. And if they then start watching the news on TV, they end up with a burned pizza. Now, what actually happens in these scenarios is that we use an erroneous model, which is called the valve model. It's a principle of more is more. If we have a coal stove or a wood-burning furnace, right, adding more coal or adding more wood on the fire means that it will generate more heat. Right? And the house will heat up more quickly. If we press the gas pedal, the accelerator in the car all the way, the car will speed up faster. Right? If we have a gas cooker and we open the gas all the way, it will produce more heat. The pan will heat up faster than when you open it only a little bit. If we open the tap of the bathtub all the way, the bath will fill up more quickly than we open it up only a little bit. Now, thermostats, as used in the electric oven and in the heating system, they, for the most part, use an on-off model. The heating is on, and it has a maximum capacity. You cannot make it generate more heat. And it will turn off when the temperature is reached. Now, there are some really modern systems that do something in between. But for the most part, you can think of it as an on-off system. So, turning up the oven to maximum temperature doesn't make it reach the desired temperature any faster. Our mental model that is based on how the car works and the wood-burning stove works and the gas cooker, it doesn't translate to home heating systems, and it doesn't translate to the oven. Yet, we do that anyway. We see similar problems everywhere in interaction. We use poor models, incomplete, confused, based on the wrong analogies with situations that we already know and that maybe we understand correctly. Right? We may also use superstition. A lot of people, for instance, pretend to think that their computer has a personality. They will often talk to their computer. Oh, good job. Right? Or, go on, you can do it. Makes absolutely no sense. Computer isn't even listening. But we do this, but like when the cursor is frozen on the screen, what do? Well, you will move the mouse even more. You will bash some keys. Right? When our computer is frozen, we think that by providing it more input, we will unfreeze it. It may have worked with an old-fashioned television with a bad contact, that when we hit the TV, it would come on again. With computers, not very likely. So we use the wrong model. Also, like when an application doesn't start, we double-click the icon, nothing happens. What do? You will attempt to start it again. Even though you know that this makes no sense, you're giving the computer even more work and it will take even longer for the application to start. Right? We sort of think that if we kick it, right, it will help. Let's do an exercise. How does an ATM work? All of you probably have an ATM card. Right? You get money out of a machine. What do we really know about how this system works? I'll ask you a number of questions and you can think about it before moving on to the next slide. For instance, how much money are you allowed to take out? Do you know what the limit is? Is the limit the same when it's a machine from your own bank or from a different bank? Think about it. Do you know? What denominations can you get from the machine? And do you know how to get the denominations you want? If after you got money, you went to a different machine and you tried to get more money, especially at the first machine, you got the maximum daily allowance, and you walk over to another machine, will it give you more money? Yes or no? What information is on the strip of your card and how is that used? For instance, your PIN number, which is needed to authorize the transaction, is that stored on your card? If not, where is it stored? How does the ATM decide that you enter the correct PIN? Does it need a network connection with the bank to verify your PIN, or can it do that by itself? What happens if you enter the wrong number? Do you know what exactly happens if you enter the wrong number several times? Sometimes there are pauses. The machine seems to be thinking about something. What would happen if you try to press some buttons in the meantime? For instance, the machine is thinking about something, but you already know which button to press for the next interaction. Will the machine already accept that button or not? Do you know why the card stays inside the machine for as long as it does? And why do you, at some point, get the card back? Do you know when you get the card back? And why is it then? And once you get the money, do you count the money? Why do you count the money, if you do? Well, you probably can answer all these questions. What isn't so certain is whether all your answers are actually correct. The answers may not be the same for everyone. And the answers may actually depend on decisions the designers made that are not technical decisions at all. I'll give you a short example. What happened, for instance, when I worked at Bell Labs many years ago, we had an ATM, and next to the ATM was a modem, so we could actually see whether it had a connection to the bank or not. Now, when there is no connection to the bank, what do you expect? Will the machine say, I'm out of order? Or will the machine allow you to take out money? There are technical aspects involved. One technical aspect is, can the machine validate your PIN number without talking to the bank? The answer is yes. Will the machine then give you the money? Well, I've asked this question numerous times nowadays, and everyone says, no, the machine will say it's out of order. Because the machine cannot decide whether you have money in your account. The machine cannot decide whether you already went to a different machine and took out your daily allowance. So the machine will just say, no, I'm out of order. Well, 25 years ago, or thereabout, no, it's about 25 years ago, the machine actually gave money. And the reason is that serving the customer was considered more important than serving the bank. The chance that I didn't have enough money in my account or had just gone to a different machine and took out money, that's not a big risk that happened. Serving the customer who has money in the bank and who has a legitimate transaction was considered to be the most important thing. Nowadays, the banks only think of themselves and will say, I'm out of order, because I cannot verify whether you're entitled to that money. Now, how did you fare when you compare your answers to perhaps information you can get from your bank or maybe online? Your mental model can be judged in 3 ways. How accurate is the model? And your model is accurate if indeed the externally observable behavior of the ATM corresponds to your model, meaning your answers to the questions were correct. Your model is shallow if you know what happens, but you don't know why. So you cannot answer questions about why things happen. Right? How similar is your idea of how things work to what you can find online or what the bank provides, how it really works? Right? Your model may not have been similar, yet accurate in predicting what happens. There were similar studies done, right, and found that people frequently use analogies, right? You explain how something works because it is analogous to something else, even though that analogy may not make sense. People often, right, have accounts that are very different, very much ad hoc, and may bear no resemblance, right, to what actually goes on inside the machines. But that's okay. Right? A mental model is only needed to know how to use an interface. Now, your users of your interfaces will have mental models already, some that relate to the aspect of heating. How are you going to take advantage of their models to help them use your interface correctly? I wish you a lot of success with that. Thank you for participating.